this is Tina with You Made That, and today I have Susan from Sweet Wing Studio on.
Hi, everybody.
Susan was on 11 months ago, so welcome back, Susan. Thanks.
Thank you for having me again. I'm pleased to be back on.
Yay. Well, Susan is a cross-stitch pattern designer, and she has Sweet Wing Studio as her shop. And in 2024, at the beginning in January, Susan took a big leap of faith with Sweet Wing Studio. Can you tell us about that?
I sure can. I had worked at the same job for 16 years, and over the last year or two, I had just kind of felt the pull to do something different. Naturally, I had started Sweet Wing Studio in 2020, and I really just did it as kind of a side job just for fun and just to make a little extra money, maybe to help buy my cross stitch supplies. But it kind of snowballed, and I signed up for more markets and sold more to distributors than I really kind of expected I would, which was wonderful and surprising, but great. My husband and I sat down and, talked about finances and all that good stuff to make sure that it would be something we could do. And thankfully, he was very supportive, and he said it was fine to go ahead. And so even after he told me it was okay to move forward with, turning in my notice or whatever, it still took me at least 6 months to work up the courage to leave the job that I had been at for so long. And that was kind of my second family. And it was going to be hard to say bye to everybody, but just kind of hanging on to my faith and knowing that God wouldn't have put this idea in my head if he didn't want me to do it. So I went ahead and did it. Finally, I turned in my notice on November 27th and left my job at the end of last year. It's the best thing I've ever done. I'm so pleased to be able to say that because, it was a very scary leap of faith kind of thing. I didn't know if it was going to be, a total bomb or and how I would handle the changes of my daily life. I didn't know. I know myself pretty well, so I knew that there was a possibility that I could just, sleep in till 11:30 every day and not do much. But thankfully, the job that I have now is so fulfilling and fun that I don't feel like I need to sleep in. I feel excited when I wake up in the mornings, and that's a wonderful feeling.
Nice. That's a good point. I didn't think of that. Like you have reason to get up out of bed and get to work.
Yeah. Yes. It doesn't feel like work most days. Most days.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
So, like, in what way has your life changed that maybe you didn't expect, rather than the obvious ways?
In some ways, the days seem a little slower than they did, not as hectic, but some days are just as hectic as ever. They're definitely less stressful. I can do things at my own pace, not have to commute, not have to worry about how I'm dressed. I feel like it fits my values better, this kind of job, because it frees up my time to be able to help others if they need it, like my family members. That's been a huge blessing, especially since my mom had a heart attack in February, and she needed me during that time, obviously. And I was really glad to be able to be there for her.
That's a good point, too. You didn't know that was coming up, but God knew, and you left your job because it would have been totally different if you're still working that job and then she needed help. So, wow.
Yes.
That's cool.
Thankfully, my job would have, they would have worked with me. They weren't like, horrible people or anything. But yeah, they would have let me, spend time with her and do what I needed to do for her, of course, because they were a great employer, which was another reason I hated to leave. I'm glad I had the freedom to, give her my full attention.
Right. Susan has been busy, and if you follow her on Instagram or Facebook, you've probably noticed she likes to give sneak peeks before she releases a new pattern. And I think it's really fun. I like to see the sneak peeks. Here is one that she just released. Now, when I look at your sneak peeks, because they're so enlarged on the pattern, I always look at, wow, those are beautiful stitches. Look how perfect they are. Like, that's what I notice with your sneak peeks. And of course, the colors too. It's like, ooh, peaches and pinks. So you'll release a sneak peek, and then maybe a few days later, you'll be like, here it is. And then here was the finish. Tell us about Bloom Where You're Planted.
Okay. Well, I just first had the idea of doing a huge flower, and I love tulips and I love that coral color. So I just put those colors together on my designing program and just tried to make something that looks like a tulip. I hope it does. It was really fun to design. Honestly, I used to not like that quote very much because I'm like, but what if you don't like where you're planted? You don't feel like blooming. But one thing that kind of occurred to me after designing this, actually, I was like, well, sometimes, in your garden, you may need to move a bush from one area to the other, or, get some flowers and weed them out and move them to another place. And you see that they bloom better and they are healthier and happier plants in another area where you transplant them. I thought to myself, well, sometimes God can replant you where He would rather you be. So that all just kind of comes together in the bloom where you're planted. And just always keep in mind that you aren't always planted there forever. And of course, that came to my mind when I was leaving my job.
Right.
Because I wasn't, the soil I was in was still pretty good soil, but I saw a prettier area of the garden and I wanted to go to it. Thankfully, God made it to where I could do that. So
I like that. Okay, so then there was this other one. Dun, 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 sneak peek. Wonder what this is going to be. Look at those beautiful stitches. And then, wow. Is this from The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings?
I believe it's from Lord of the Rings. I'm terrible. I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty sure it's from the Lord of the Rings. I do know who said it in the movies, I don't know if they actually said this quote in the movie, but in the books, Legolas, the elf, actually said this, at least in the book. I also feel at home among the trees. When I was growing up, I lived in a house that was just surrounded by beautiful trees, big trees too. And I didn't really even realize how important they were to me until I got married and moved out, and we had a house that didn't have any trees in the yard. And I missed the sound of the trees and the shade and just the beauty of being that close to the trees. And I didn't even expect that, but we did plant a few trees, but they weren't all that big. And thankfully, I can still go back home to my childhood home and see the trees and visit the trees.
Aw. Well, and that leads to my next question, your inspiration for your new designs. So I don't know if you thought of trees and then looked for that quote, or you found that quote and then it really spoke to you.
Mm-hmm. With that one, I saw a piece of clip art on Pinterest that was two cute trees next to each other. And I thought, I could probably turn that into a design. So I looked for tree quotes, found that one pretty quickly, and figured that would be a good one. Because I like short quotes. They work better on small cross-stitch pieces. My inspiration can come from anywhere. A color palette I might see. Colors are a big thing with me, but also just hearing some lyrics to a song or reading a quote that is meaningful, and of course Bible verses. So yeah, it can come from anywhere, and I just like to put the pieces together like a little puzzle and come up with a design.
Do you ever get people saying, hey Susan, you know what you should do? You should do this fox and he's camping, and then there's a camper, and then there's a bunch of trees. Like, do people ever tell you, like, here's an idea for you, Susan?
Yes, I get several messages from people, fans and stitchers and whoever. I actually asked for suggestions not too long ago and got a big list together Bible verses that meant a lot to people. I love to hear what other people are thinking in a way of something they might like to stitch. Yeah, I actually have a file on my computer on my Apple Notes that is all of the suggestions I've gotten, and I kind of divide it into two: suggestions and things that I've found, ideas, and just like little flower ideas that sometimes you see a flower in like a watercolor painting, or even in nature you can see a flower, and you're like, that's so pretty, but it's difficult to get that down into a cross stitch pattern in squares. You can't make it look the same way, but that's kind of something that comes with time as you design and learn more about designing. It's funny you said fox a minute ago. I put a fox on one of my designs coming up later this year. You just have to play with the pixels really to get them in the right spot to make it look like a fox and not some weird sort of animal that's been in a fight. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, it's a challenge because you don't do a lot of half stitches, like, a half a square. No, it's a whole square. So how do you make something round out of squares? That's the
Right.
challenge.
Right. Yep. It is a challenge, but it's fun. And when it finally gets to the point where it looks good, it's very satisfying.
Nice. Okay. In March, you went to Nashville for a physical cross stitch market where pattern designers all showed up. Here is a video that Susan shared with me of her packing before the market. And we can just appreciate all the things, all the work. I see a list and piles. And that's where owners of cross stitch businesses, needlework shops, that's what I'm trying to say, they come to this market, and then that's where they say, hey, I'll take 10 of these or whatever, because they look at Susan's display at that market. And here is Susan's display. Wow.
Thank you. That's really fun to put together.
Wow. I don't know how you do it. That's a lot of work, but boy, probably very rewarding, and you meet lots of people, and it's probably a great time.
It really is. It's my favorite time of the year, cross stitch wise. It's wonderful to get to see everybody. And since I've been there 3 years in a row now, I know more people and I recognize the faces, and hopefully I remember their names. But yeah, it's a great experience. It's a lot of work. Like you saw all those piles. I have tons and tons of piles leading up to market, but they all get put in boxes and hopefully organized to where I can easily grab what I need. This last year, I had a helper, Tammy, and she was wonderful. She just her being there just gave me more confidence, and she was very helpful too in many, many ways. So
That's good. Shout out Tammy. Yay. Now, that's like the big one is in March, and that's a physical one, but you have others coming up that aren't, actually, they might be virtual or whatever. What do you still have coming up?
I do have one coming up in late August. It's the Needlework Marketplace online. It's virtual, so you're kind of doing like Zoom meetings with shop owners. It's kind of how it works, and they'll just pop in. You'll be there, and somebody will show up on the screen, and you'll have a little conversation and say, "Hey, I would like these patterns, and you can ship them here or whatever." And it's a really neat system. It's kind of new to the cross stitch world, but it's not new to me because the online shows started about the same time I started designing. So it's just kind of old hat to me now. But yeah, that's a fun show because you can wear your pajama bottoms and bare feet and nobody knows, kind of like right now.
That's what I was thinking.
So it's a more comfortable and not as taxing as the Nashville market, but they're both good in their own ways. But I'm really looking forward to Needlework Marketplace. I've got at least 6 patterns coming out for then, and so I'm excited to get those out in the world.
Yeah. And then you've got a retreat that you're attending in Florida, but it's not a market, right?
Right, right, yes. I'm going to Stitch, Florida in July, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm really just going as a stitcher. I'm not, putting on a show or anything as a designer. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. There's a lot of friends that I've made over the years that are going to be there, and I can't wait to hug their necks. So it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that.
Yay. And then All Things Autumn Retreat. What is that one?
That is going to be a retreat in Asheville, and it's put on by Annabella's. And I will be a guest designer there along with Linda Stoltz from Erica Michaels. I don't know a whole lot about that one yet. I kind of just signed up for that.
Also, sometimes shops have you do an exclusive pattern for them. This is one sneak peek that was for the Farmer's Attic, and that is an exclusive shop item here. So is that only available through, do we go to the Farmer's Attic online or something and order it from there?
She has an Etsy shop, and you can just search for Farmer's Attic. She has the paper version available to mail to you, or there's also a PDF version that you can download if that's your preference. I got with Lucy. She's the owner of Farmer's Attic. I got with her a few months ago and asked her if she would mind me doing an exclusive for her shop, and she mentioned something patriotic might do well. So I found a picture of a beautiful pot with big white petunias and little red petunias. And it was so pretty and just made me, it just kind of screams summer. So that's what I was talking about earlier, seeing a flower in nature and wanting to translate it into a cross stitch design. It's not always very easy, but I found this one very fun to design. The white flowers, I hope, show up the way it looks in my brain, but they look, kind of frilly like petunias do. I just really enjoyed this one. And this one is a little bit more of a complicated, not difficult, but a little bit more, you have to pay more attention when you're stitching this one than most of my others are pretty simple. But this one takes a little bit more effort, but I think it's worth it.
Nice. Oh, that's all right. Maybe not watch a movie while you're doing it. Maybe listen to something a little more mindless, but
yes, or maybe nothing at all.
So how far in advance do you usually work? Are you looking at fall or Christmas yet?
Yes, I am just now getting into fall. I'm working about 2 to 3 months ahead of time. That is not ahead really at all in the cross stitch world, because that's going to be everything you need to do to get those out is going to be due in a few weeks. So it's busy, but I love it. I work about 2 to 3 months in advance, but what I'm really wanting to do is spend all of June just really cranking out some designs and just put a lot of time into that to kind of get ahead, hopefully.
Nice.
Yeah.
When we go to your Etsy shop, here is the home screen, and Etsy shop is a good place to shop for your patterns. Again, there's PDFs available here. We can also go to sweetwingstudio.com, and there's some freebies over there too in the tabs. And that is the place to sign up for Susan's newsletter. That's where you're going to find out all the things, what's coming. And then my favorite part of the newsletters is when you give your little shout outs to just companies who are doing stuff that you like, or it's not like you're getting paid to do them, but just little shout outs. Hey, if you like stickers, check out Hubman and Chub Girl. And I do. I'm like, whatever Susan recommends, let me check it out.
That's great. That's my favorite part of writing the newsletter. I got a list again in my Apple Notes of things I want to recommend. Just, just little things I might buy here and there that I really enjoy, or even like a music video I might find on YouTube that I think is worth watching. I'll include that. I love doing that. I could do just a newsletter every day, just saying, hey, these are the neat things I found today.
Nice. Well, yeah, and just looking at this page of your Etsy shop, it's like, oh yeah, just keep growing. So, I mean, so many good patterns. It's like something for everyone here. And again, so much on the website. Also, I do recommend checking out Susan's Facebook and her Instagram also. That's where you can get the sneak peeks. I like your stories. Those are always good too. Check out how her kitties are doing. You can just get caught up with all the things because you got a lot going on, girl.
I do, but I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I love it too. It's nice to see. And last time when we talked 11 months ago, I mean, who knew you'd be doing this now full time, like we didn't know. So it's really fun to catch up and see all the new stuff.
Yes, it seems like yesterday we were doing this, but then in another way it seems like a long time ago. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for having me on. I really have fun doing this, and I love the questions you ask, and it's just fun.
Yay. Well, let's not wait 11 months and maybe we'll grab you in the winter and see what you're doing for spring. We'll all be in the mood for spring at that point.
I know. That's so funny. It'll be here fast.
I know. All right. Well, thanks again, Susan, and thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye.